I'm here with Jim Meyerhoff, President of the Washington State Chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Jim, tell us a little about your background in the sport.
Well, actually, I just completed 51 years of involvement in the sport, and it ranged all the way from being a high school wrestler, a collegiate wrestler, had a chance to compete in a couple national championships back in 1968, 1970, and then went into coaching, and coached at the high school and the college level, and did a lot of international style coaching along the way as we worked with our athletes. And then eventually I went into administration. And after completing 30 years in education as a teacher and a coach and an administrator, I went to work for the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, where I was able to continue my involvement with wrestling. And most recently, I was a tournament manager for 12 years, and then the actual tournament director for MAC Classic, the Washington State High School Championships, which will have their 27th edition coming up here this February.
Wonderful. You were instrumental in developing girls wrestling in Washington. Talk about how you did that.
Well, like all the other states, we eventually started to see more girls participating. We had larger numbers participate at the middle school level, but eventually in the early 2000s we started to have a couple girls that qualified for the state championships, especially in the 101 or smallest weight class. And at that point we decided that the numbers started to increase, and we needed to find a way to get them involved, because our goal in this whole thing was to try to get girls so they didn't have to wrestle guys. And when you're just developing your program, you really don't have much choice, because numbers dictate that you don't have anybody else to practice or compete against.
Okay. What makes Washington a leader in women's wrestling?
Well, I think the model that we use to develop our girls program, I'm not going to say it's unique, because I've watched how we looked at how Hawaii, we looked at Texas, and at that time they were the only two states that had girls wrestling. And our model just ended up being slightly different. In 2004, we started, along with the state boys championships, we had a girls invitational tournament, where if you were a girl on a high school wrestling team, and you were a member of the team and you competed in 4 matches, you were eligible to compete in the invitational. And so we ended up with 56 girls that came to that first tournament invitational in 2004. We grouped them, no weight classes, we grouped them in 4s, put them in round robins, they each got 3 matches, and we recognized them after their competition. We continued that for 3 years, and in 2005 we had 109 girls compete, and it jumped to 159 in 2006. And at that point I approached the Washington Scholastic Activities Association. I approached their executive board and suggested that we look at adding girls wrestling as an official sport in the state of Washington. And of course this was about just right after the women's were put into the Olympic Games, and so the momentum was good, and our executive board adopted it, and in 2007 we had our first state tournament. And one of the things that we did was, because there was no standard for girls' weight classes in the NFHS rule book, we created our own weight classes. And we started with only 7 weight classes in that first year or two. And we went in, and they started with an 8-entry tournament in 2007. The numbers jumped up to 400 and some across the state. In 2008, it jumped up to 700, and we were able to go to a 12-entry tournament. And then in 2009, we went to a 16-entry tournament. And all of this was being competed in MAC Classic just right alongside with the boys. And since then, we've gone all the way up until where we are right now. And I haven't checked the numbers this year, but last year, the 2013-2014 season, we had over 1,400 girls wrestling across the state. And as the numbers increased, we also increased the weight classes. So we now have, this year, we have 14 girls' weights, just like there are for the 14 boys' weights. And we developed those weights based upon our participation numbers statewide, using the weight management data to determine what weight classes that would best fit our girls.
That's great. What suggestions do you have for those who want to develop programs in other states?
Well, I think first of all is realize that the minute that you adopt it as a state tournament or a state program, your numbers are going to increase significantly. I don't think we're anything unique. We're not the largest state in any way. We don't even have hardly any college wrestling left in Washington. So but yet we have great numbers in our boys and in our girls. So, get started. And then I think there's no set model, and then no set idea on what to do. I know since us, California has added. I know a couple other states are adding. In fact, in the next month, I'm going to have a conference phone call with West Virginia to share our model and to see what I can do to give them a few pointers on how they can get started. But girls wrestling, I think, is unique for the females, just like it's unique for the guys. And it's a great opportunity, and I think if you get started, you're going to find success.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Jim.
Thank you.